Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in adult transgender care. I feel like today I have to really emphasize that I work only with adults more than ever. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, please do subscribe. If you are a regular viewer that has not yet subscribed, also please, I really ask all of you to do so if it's feasible, if it doesn't violate your privacy, to subscribe to this channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Not only does your subscription helps me with my content, but it also right now helps so many other people find this content through YouTube algorithms. So your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. And subscribing to this channel is really the best way you can showcase your support towards the content that I create for all of you. For today's video, I will be talking about, um, I will be explaining how not everybody who is male assigned at birth, who engages in cross-dressing to a lesser or higher degree, is necessarily immediately trans. This is one of my pet peeves when it comes to the world of gender care. There's few other pet peeves, but this is the one that really bugs me quite a bit when I hear people on social media, Reddit groups, Discord, says that if you cross-dress, if you cross-dress in secrecy and privacy, whether it is for sexual pleasure or because it makes you feel good about yourself, that means you're automatically transgender. And you're not acknowledging that to yourself, you're using that as justification. And that is really, really untrue. So today I will be sharing with you various other reasons why people do cross-dress and how that may also overlap with transgender identity. First of all, let's look at cross-dressing. Cross-dressing, traditionally speaking, cross-dressing means that an individual is wearing clothing that are traditionally or stereotypically of the opposite gender. Even the definition is already loaded, right? But we all know what I'm talking about. Cross-dressing means that you are male assigned at birth and you feminizing to lesser or greater extent, right? And you may be feminizing yourself by wearing feminine clothes and that's it. Or you may be taking it much further by not just wearing clothing, but also feminizing also your physical attributes by putting on makeup, putting on a feminine wig, by going even further to experience what it would feel like to feel a feminine physicality by wearing breast forms when you cross dress, by wearing a corset to give yourself a smaller waist when you cross dress. So the cross-dressing behavior could be as little as just wearing women's panties to as extended. I don't want to say extreme because there's nothing extreme about it. As extended as completely fully wearing a lot of stereotypically considered women's clothing, makeup, hair, and even as far as breast forms and other things. And everybody's different in terms of what they need to achieve what their goal is for cross-dressing. For a lot of people, cross-dressing carries a goal. And for some people, it is very little. They need very little. For some people, they need a lot to achieve that goal. Cross-dressing behavior is, let's put it this way. People who cross-dress for so many reasons. I will need an hour-long video just to cover every single reason, and I probably wouldn't cover all of it. People cross-dress because it is a sexual preference. Some call it sexual kink. I don't like the word kink because kink makes it sound abnormal. And I think there's a lot of sexual kinks that are incredibly natural and normal. One of them is cross-dressing. So cross-dressing is, for a lot of people, is a sexual preference. The same sexual preference for a lot of people. They prefer wearing lingerie during sex. Some people have sexual preference where they like to be dominating during sex. Some people have sexual preference where they like, for example, to um, to be submissive during sex. Some people's sexual preference is when they have sex, they fantasize about certain things. Some people's sexual preference is, I only want to have sex with a particular type of individuals. That is it. We all have sexual predispositions toward what drives our sexual desires. And cross-dressing is certainly one of them for those people. I don't see cross-dressing as a sexual predisposition as something bad or deviant because it's something that adult engages in and gets pleasure out of. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with it. So one of the main reasons people do cross-dress is because it's sexually exciting. There's something about feminizing themselves or even wearing clothing that may be considered taboo. Maybe it's the aspect that it's considered taboo that is so enticing. It could be that this is part of their sexual fantasy landscape. Lots of reasons. Okay. And then there's also people who cross-dress because they like how it makes them feel. It may make them feel free, at peace with themselves. It may make them feel like they're more creative. Like it allows them to express part of themselves that feels like it's very limited by stereotypically men's clothing that we have out there in the market. Some people feel that by cross-dressing and uh, allowing themselves to explore more different colors and prints and patterns gets them in touch with the creative self. Of course, I know uh, somebody who identifies as a man and feels comfortable being a man, of course, should have no restrictions to be able to express themselves in different colors and patterns. We all know that. And yet, we still can negate that we live in a world where it's still quite restrictive on what men can and cannot do. And so cross-dressing can be an outlet for a lot of people because it just feels good. It's fun. It is fun to do for some people, period. Okay? Now, for some people, it is not fun and doesn't feel comfortable. For some people, it is incredibly exciting. Maybe it allows them to tap into other parts of themselves. Some people do it because it feels like it releases an element of stress. People cross-dress for a lot of reasons. And yes, undeniably, one of the reasons why people do cross-dress is because they are transgender, for sure. In which case, people prefer to say they're feminizing and not cross-dressing because it's different. I agree. So that's also one of the reasons. People also do cross-dress when they might be transgender and they also are in denial and they're or not in touch with it, or maybe their relationship to their authentic woman's gender is very much still repressed, and they may do that as an outlet to get more in touch with who they are. Yes, people may cross-dress as curiosity to explore their gender. Maybe people are realizing that there's more to genders than meets the eye. There's more to genders than our assigned gender. There's more to genders than socially constructed. And people do it just to explore how that makes them feel, how certain things makes them feel. Lots of reasons why people cross-dress. To say that if you cross-dress or you engage in cross-dressing behavior, you definitely trans in your class, the trans and you don't know it, is not true. The problem with saying that if you cross-dress, that means you're definitely trans. The problem with saying that is that it takes away the freedom to engage in cross-dressing without then taking your mind to such extremes. Because there should be freedom, there should be no restrictions to cross-dress for people who want to cross-dress. I have had a lot of people that I've worked with who have reached out and were wondering. Their primary question and concern has been, am I cross-dressing because I am trans or am I just cross-dressing? A lot of times people will have no dysphoria whatsoever. I know some people say that you don't need dysphoria to be trans, all you need is euphoria. I'm not, it's, how should I put it? My area of expertise and knowledge is in dysphoria, is in recognizing when distress is present that stems from gender identity as a root issue, or when distress is present when it comes from different type of root issues, and to help identify where it's coming from and help an individual understand what the distress signal is telling them. So I'm not going to speak on euphoria because dysphoria is much more area of my expertise. So people, like I said, if people reach out to me and they want to find out, but you know, we live in a world where we're so inundated with, there's lots of information out there on the internet. There's a lot of misinformation there on the internet. Transgender in of itself as a terminology, as a signifier is so broad that it doesn't have parameters any longer. It's very confusing. And because we live in a world, again, inundated with all the information and knowledge, people feel very confused. I have a lot of people that I see that have been cross-dressing all their life. They comfortable with cross-dressing for whatever, again, whatever their goals are. Goal might be sexual, might be tension relief, might be stress reliever, might be to gender bend, might be to explore yourself, might be uh, lots of other reasons. And they do it for their primary goal, and they don't feel attention. When they're finished with cross-dressing, they feel fine living a life in their assigned gender. They feel fine living life as a man. They don't have any gender dysphoria. But because when they started cross-dressing, none of this information existed, they didn't make anything of it. But now, because so much information exists and a lot of inaccuracy on the internet says that if you do this, that means you're trans, they start to kind of almost like, when there's suggestibility in your mind and then it takes a seed and it starts to grow. And the reality is that, again, not everybody who cross-dresses is transgender. If you're comfortable with your gender assigned at birth, if you're comfortable identifying as a man, if you're comfortable navigating life as a man, if you're comfortable, and again, you don't necessarily even have to love your body. A lot of people who are comfortable with their assigned gender don't necessarily love their bodies, right? So it's not that the love for your body physicality has to be present, but if you're not experiencing any disconnect or a feel of disalignment, what essentially is um, essential square for identifying gender dysphoria, then what your experiences in life tells you is that you're a man who also loves to cross-dress, whatever your goals are for cross-dressing. And then, of course, like I said, of course, there's people for whom cross-dressing behavior also, it starts off as cross-dressing and then it does and can develop in gender dysphoria, or they also have a transgender identity that runs parallel to cross-dressing and later they realize and it starts to make a broader sense for them. But not until I think socially as a society, we're going to also normalize cross-dressing, not only as something that gender bending is even a better word. Not unless a society we're going to recognize and acknowledge that gender bending should be permissible and all it means is that somebody just likes to explore, express themselves in a particular way. And also, not until we're going to normalize that people do gender bend for sexual pleasure, I think it's going to continue to breed this idea of taboo, and then people are going to continue to generalize and link it to transgender or trans identity. And that is not true. Another thing that is really, really important is that there are people who have been cross-dressing all of their life, and maybe they also have come to a realization that while they don't have dysphoria, they just feel much more comfortable living and navigating life, presenting them and identifying as a woman. And that may segue into maybe taking alternative steps. And they may not also feel necessarily dysphoria. And then there's some people who may feel like this is what they've been doing all their life and they're going to continue to do it while also living a life presenting as a man, because that's what it's like. It's like a part of their landscape of their inner self, right? We all have a sense of self, and we all have various vectors of expressing that part of ourselves. What you see me on YouTube is a vector of a professional part of myself, right? Dr. Z, psychologist working in gender field. At home, I have a different vector of self, a wife, um, at a homebody, actually somebody who enjoys endlessly sliding on a couch and reading a lot of books. When I go out, I have a different vector of self. When I am at a social gathering, I have a different vector of self. When I'm with my family, I have a different vector of self. I'm a sister and I'm a daughter. We all have vectors of selves. You can call them roles. You can call them personalities. You can call them part of your inner landscape tapestry, whatever you want to call it. I have part of me that loves a little bit, almost like a little bit of this a little bit of goth aesthetic. I have part of me that loves bohemian aesthetic and expressing myself in bohemian aesthetic. And then I have part of me that loves classic, clean, refined clothing. Those are all parts of myself, and they all exist in my life, and some of them come out more so than others. Same thing with cross-dressing behavior. For some people, it is a very essential part that's very closely linked to their identity. And people engage in it as a pathway, as a gateway, as maybe a little breadcrumb on a way that communicates to them that there's something deeper going on. For a lot of other people, could be part of their identity that this is once in a while sexually exciting apart from other sexual things that excite them. For other people, this could be something that just makes them feel good. I think about it. We live in a world that is so restrictive when it comes to gender. A lot of people don't really think about it because there's so much learned behaviors that people don't even question. They just take it as it is, right? I even had, for example, my mom, she still to this day tells me not having children is not natural. So according to my mom, I'm living a very unnatural life because I don't want to have kids. And it's not natural for a woman not to want to have kids because a woman by nature is made to have kids. I mean, really? So the point I'm trying to make is gender is still very restrictive. The way a man should look, behave, talk, navigate life is still very boxed up in specificity. Not only a man is supposed to look and behave and be particular way, but also has to achieve certain things in life, provide in certain ways, behave in certain ways in certain situations. Well, not everybody's like that. And when you live in a restrictive environment, and if there's also part of you that is more creative and gender expansive, you're going to feel suffocated. And it makes sense that for some people, wearing gender bending with clothing feels fun and interesting and relieve stress and tension. So I want you all to recognize that if you are engaging in cross-dressing behavior, it doesn't automatically mean you're transgender. It could, and that's something to explore and dig deeper. But it doesn't necessarily have to also if you don't have a trans identity or if you don't have a predisposition to evolve into trans identity. Remember, trans identity is not necessarily something that is static. Gender for us, for a lot of people, is not static, it's a fluid. For some people, it remains stable throughout their life and they identify in a particular way. For some people, it starts to broaden up. So I think it's really important to allow yourself flexibility and room to enter your experiences with a much more open and receptive and broader lens versus entering the experience of cross-dressing with the idea of I must be trans or idea of there's something wrong with me if I'm doing this. It's an experience that is an experience that you as adult engage in. It's an experience you have with yourself. And you should enjoy the experience and you should also allow yourself to explore how that experience makes you feel versus getting stuck in a head over analyzing it. Or worst case scenario, my pet peeve, hearing on Reddit or Discord or anywhere else that, oh, you do this, oh, you're definitely trans, oh, you need to transition. Look, if you're going to decide to transition because you feel distressed, that's for adults, that is your decision. But I also want people to know that again, when it comes to cross-dressing, not everybody who cross-dresses automatically trans. It doesn't work like that. So that was the case, drag queens, all drag queens would be trans and they're not. People also cross-dress because they love being in drag, either for public performance or not. Look, women's women's clothing, women's elements are fun. It's fun. Okay, let's not fool ourselves. It's fun. There's lots of way to express yourself that, and there's less of it, I think, for at least let me put it this way. There's less of it in today's world because we still have such a narrow lens of what man is, and it shouldn't be like that. Remember the times when men in courts used to wear wigs and makeup and high heels? Hmm? You should really look at the evolution of clothing and gender presentation throughout the history. So comment below. Let me know what's your relationship with cross-dressing behavior? Are you wondering if you're transgender? Are you loving to cross-dress and also very comfortable with your assigned gender? Are you feeling a lot of shame and guilt, which is a very common one, and feel very conflicted about it? What prevents you from allowing yourself to explore it freely? Comment below. Love reading all of your comments, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.